Hi, Brian Brosdahl here, and I'm here to do a virtual seminar. So if you didn't get a chance to make it to the St. Croix event here, you could still order rods. So don't forget to buy St. Croix, and let's keep this thing rolling. I want to talk about some different tips that'll help you when you're out fishing. For walleyes, I might throw in some panfish stuff, but I want you to think outside of the bucket, that bucket of bait, because we're coming into that time of year where fishing isn't just jigging a minnow, it isn't just dragging a crawler around, so you have to really hone your edge if you want to catch more fish. So being a guide, I see some trends and things every single day, and using some different hard baits, soft baits. Jigs, of course, we all love jigs. You're doing something, you get a bite, you set the hook, and that's why we like jigs. But one of the key things is when you find fish, and today it's getting easier because I use Humminbird, we have side imaging, so you can see fish in the distance. We have 360, so you can see fish front, back, behind you, all around you. You don't see them all. You still miss fish. The angle of the beam dictates what you see. And then forward viewing, which is a transducer that you could look and find fish, but you have to point it right at them. So above and beyond that, how do you fish when you find the fish? When water temperatures get warmer, well, we get bug hatches. We get midge fly hatches. We get mayfly hatches. Oh, to make the fishing even tougher, the walleyes eat crayfish. So they've got all that, and the shiners are kind of dropping down deep, recuperating. So the walleyes don't need us, but we need to catch them, right? So that's what this is all about. Ripping baits using, a ripping shad, like Northland makes ripping shads, and Bagley has them as a rattle bait. If you go to a large body of water and you pitch a rattle bait out, you're going to catch the biggest walleye really fast. So it's all about pitching it out using a 6'8" to 7 foot St. Croix rod, and you can use Legend Tournament, you could use Legend Elite, Legend X, whatever you want to use. Icons are phenomenal rods. Medium, extra fast is good because what you're doing is you pitch it out after a long bomb, and you're bombing the distance, pull it and make it rattle, and you'll feel it rattle in the rod. And in that Polyberry curve, you can really feel it going through the backbone. And when you pull it up and you rattle and it hits the bottom again, coming down on the rocks, the fish will eat it. A lot of times before it even hits the rocks. Sometimes they'll scoop it up off the bottom. Walleyes are fast, but they're not that fast. There's so many times I have to tell, when I'm guiding clients, to slow down, because I can actually see walleyes behind their bait, and they're going so fast that they're winning. The walleye's losing because you can't catch it. And if they really strike at it and they miss, not good. They're exerting effort, so and not getting the bait. So it's all about ripping it, and then those subtle pauses, but keeping your line tight in the drop is very important. Catching nice fish on rattle baits. Don't have one right here to show, but you can imagine. So keep some rattles on hand, and jigging cadence varies. So if you're in a boat, you can't have two people ripping like crazy. You're going to spook fish out of the area, especially in clear water. Dark water, doesn't matter. You're focusing on different areas, and you're hitting different slices each time when you're pitching. But probably the best would be a 6.5 to 7 foot rod. If we're using puppet minnows and forward darting baits, I'll cut off the front hooks if I'm fishing in rocks. So you can pitch it out there and let it hit the bottom. And when it hits the bottom, it makes a little bit of sound. You're sweeping it, but you're doing a slow and then quick hop, and you're getting that bait to dart to the side. Then, if you count how long it takes for it to hit the bottom and stop before it hits the bottom. So if you're hitting it at a 4 count, stop at 3 and start hopping it. The first hop makes it dart to the side. So if you hop it again, it darts to the side. So you're walking the dog underwater. So you just keep sweeping and you're reeling and hopping, but keep your rod tip lower towards the fish. Always point your rod tip at the bait you're using and just keep hopping it, and you'll get a rhythm down. And the best way to do this, if any of you are fishing clear water, is to pitch off a dock in the distance and hop it. You might be in only 2, 3, 4 feet of water. Watch your bait. Recreate that in deeper water with a little bit of a pause as you let it drop in, and you are puppeting the right way. And there's really no wrong way to rig or fish the puppet. If you jig too fast, I see it all the time. Water temperature 70 and above are best for this type of instinctive reaction striking type of bite. If the water's a little bit cooler, jig it like a regular bait and go lighter is very important. Current, there's current in every situation. There's current in rivers, obviously, but in lakes, there's current. Lakes with wind create a seiche, and a seiche pushes water from one end of the lake to the other. So this current that happens around structures and actually carves the different level of structures out on a lake. But there are some bodies of water, big ones, like Winnebagosh, like Leech Lake, like Mille Lacs, like Red Lake, that always have a little bit of current in them because the lakes are big. And it's always windy. In my world, it is. There's flags on every weather report I have for the next few days. So you got to adapt to it. And any little bit of current, any steep structure offshore that has any kind of stuff on top, rocks, are always going to have fish. Stay clear of the bottom if you're fishing in weeds, or you're going to follow your hook and get it all snagged up and gnarled up. I'm using spoons right now. Spoons are a phenomenal bait. And the Coffin Spoon is just one of many spoons, like the buckshot rattle spoon. People have tossed those for years. And there's so many different spoons out there. But I washed a lot of spoons to come up with the Coffin Spoon. A Coffin Spoon is a winter spoon with a treble hook. So you pitch it out during the crayfish molting period, which is coming up right now. Wally's already eaten them. And hop it, unlike a puppet or Ford-style jigging bait that's going to wrap in blades of grass and then pull it all towards the boat. Spoons you can loft. You can loft them, and you're just going down, your spoon's tumbling down, and you pull it up again, and it's tumbling down and pull it up again. A little bit easier, and my clients said it's a lot easier than fishing that bait with all the hooks because they're getting weeds all the time. And with spoons, you got one treble hook at the bottom. I add a treble hook at the top, and you'd be surprised how often it doesn't get tangled up. Just cast it out, let it hit the bottom, hop, and just keep it up off the bottom in a rhythm. So it's like the walk the dog, but your spoon is actually moving. And the Coffin Spoon has 3 different tumbles, and it never does the same thing twice, and that's why walleyes crush it. So, and then you want to use medium, extra fast, 6'8", go to a 6'3" if you're fishing in heavy wind, and adding that little treble on a split ring at the top is very important. Wash colors. From time to time, colors can change, and whether you're using red glow as a crayfish, Wonder Bread, purple Wonder Bread, we know colors are really important. Sneeze, look that up. That's a crazy color. But getting the rhythm right and jigging spoons, and people out there who see this, they've been jigging spoons probably forever. It's been out there. It's a dinosaur thing that there's a new renaissance. And I found it worked really good last year. And it's one of my favorite things. I'm kind of just making sure I don't miss anything here. So fishing in Cara, skeletal grass that has no roots, that stuff tends to fall jigs in that. And sandgrass will grow from a half a foot to a foot sometimes, and the spoons go through it. So another way to fish without getting messed up and fouled. So try ripping a spoon. I'll try to get a video out here soon. We caught limits of fish doing it, and when they hit it, it's in the back of their throat. Sometimes it's in the front of their mouth, but they just inhale it. And so something to try. So tie on a spoon and let loose. A Legend X is a great rod because you can feel it at Telegraph stuff. Icons are phenomenal too and have a great price point. So, and maybe a 3/8 ounce spoon is something you think wouldn't be able to use in 10 feet of water. I use it all the time in 6 to 10 feet of water, and it's just lofting it and keeping it over. We catch a lot of big walleyes on that stuff. Remember, when you're using this type of bait, loosen up your drag. Okay, if you're using a medium power, extra fast action, I want that drag really loose because you've got something with treble hooks, and you want, when you're pulling on it, if you're using braid, to have a little bit of a give. You don't have to use monofilament when you're ripping baits. Monofilament are for those who don't know how to turn the drag. Turn that drag loose, and you can use braid. braid casts way farther. It goes through the wind and works phenomenal. So something to remember, when the weather gets hot, you get a flat, calm day. Well, you don't have to go to the bar and watch football. You go fishing because you can't catch fish unless you go bass up some walleyes. What I like to do in flat, hot weather is I'll use a drop shot hook. And so drop shots for walleyes, well, yeah, they work really well in situations where you have a lot of algae or slime, as it's called. You just tie a little sinker on the bottom of a fluorocarbon line. And here I have a drop shot already on a swivel with a little crimp here that you could adjust how long your drop shot is. This holds the bait at the level of the walleye. And so I'm throwing this with a leech. I'm throwing that with a minnow or chunk of crawler, or you could use plastics, but most of the time on the lakes I'm at, I have to use live bait. And so sometimes I'll mess around, I'll use a medium light, but medium light in a 6 to 7 foot rod range. And depending on how long your drop shot is, if you're using really long drop shots, you can go to a 7/6 rod. But this is totally adjustable, so you can adjust your drop shots. Figure out how far off the bottom your walleyes are. So in clear water, you can't drive over them. So I'll adjust this drop shot. Let's say they're only that far off the bottom. You're set. But most of the time, I've seen on clear waters, I'm finding out walleyes are way off the bottom. So there's sometimes we have to use a 6 or an 8 foot drop shot. And they're not going to mind that little bit of line. I mean, there's so much stuff in the water that isn't going to scare them. This is only 8-pound fluorocarbon. I use Sunline fluorocarbon. And on some rods I'll braid, this is all mono up to here. So, but I like fluorocarbon to be the line that meets the zebra mussels, the sharp rocks, the weeds. So load that up with leeches, throw it out there, and hop it through. And if you want to, you could just jig it in place. Slip bobbers work. Slip bobbers are a way to fish slower through. If you're in a hurry and you want to catch walleyes or you're in a tournament situation, drop shot those walleyes. And this is buy it and tie it on. That's a Gamakatsu G Finesse drop shot. You could tie your own. I do. And so I'll have, and I keep a little rubber band on the rod there. This came with some broccoli and it's colorful, it's free. So I'll tie a little loop knot. I don't go straight to the line. You lose a lot of walleyes that bite your leech in half. I give them a little finger line so they can inhale it. Then I dress it up. There's a little bead there. So we do border wars. So I'll have the Minnesota Vikings color versus the Green Bay Packers colors in beads and hooks. And you'll be surprised how much fun it is and who wins. It depends. At different times, it's a tug of war between the two different colors, but the walleyes always make the decision. And I'm neutral. I always throw just a red hook or just a red bead on there. But there's a simple setup. And most of the time, walleyes are near the bottom, but they're never on the bottom. If they're on the bottom, go to another spot. They're not active. And so I'm typically about 2.5 to 4 feet. And I got a size 4 hook because we catch a lot of nice size walleyes over 20 inches to 25, 27 inches. And I want a size 4 hook. You could snell that on there, but look up a loop knot, make a loop, and then thread this on. And I'll take a little, there's little threaders for slip bobbers and all that stuff, these little wire threaders. Or you could just take a loop of line and then thread all this works on here. And then I'll snell it if I'm in a tournament. If I'm just out fishing or guiding, I could lift fish into the boat. All I do is wrap it 4 times. So that's drop shots, and quite important in today's day. You don't have to go near the fish, you're pitching. Waters are getting clear, zebra mussel lakes are getting clear. So it's a lot more pitching than in the past. In the past, you caught the fish under a spinning prop, back trolling or front trolling, and the fish are right there in 9 feet of water. Right now, water's so clear in some lakes, you look down, you see the bottom, and there's nothing there. But if you carefully look to the side, you can see them swimming just in your peripheral view, because a lot of the clarities of 20 foot of water or more, and it's happening everywhere, with zebra mussels and all that stuff. So now we can pitch to them. And the key thing to remember is to not disturb them. Pitch past them and slowly work it through. And in vegetation, in slimy conditions and snags, that works really well. There's another thing here also. Hair jigs have become super huge, and these are old school. Hair jigs have been popular for many, many years. And I remember fishing when I was a kid, the Grizz used to rip hair jigs, and because he could rip them and nothing's going to fall off, and they puff. But what I like about hair jigs, if you can't get the right bait to the perfect size minnow, you could just put a little chunk of crawler on here, just a little bit, or a piece of a leech. So you could put a small leech on there, but I'll take a leech and cut it up, and I call it leech's pieces, and it's walleye candy. You just add a leech's pieces on there, pitch this out, and hop it. Now, I like to use a medium light, extra fast rod because you could snap it out there farther, because this is really light. You watch from a distance when people are throwing hair jigs, you just see them whipping it and it doesn't go very far. And that's where you go to medium light. And then when the fish grabs it and kind of swims with it, then you can set the hook. Great during bug hatches. And the key thing is to go light. You don't have to be near the bottom. They're focusing up as all these bugs are fleeing to the surface to hatch or to lay their eggs and start the cycle over again. So hair jigs are really popular, buck hair. And this is a Northland Deep V with buck hair. And so a medium light rod, 6, 8, 7 foot, even a 7.6, you can really whip it out there, is really good. And on windier days, shorten the rod tip up for less slack in the line. But also swimming baits. This is a ripping jig, and it's kind of a hybrid plastic. It's got the little wings on the bottom, and I'm actually using more 1/8 ounce, but I wanted to show you a 1/4. You can see it better, but when I rip this, it flips to the side. And so you rip it and it flips the other way. And the key is in this tail, if I had a tail here, it would mess up the action. So, and this works really well. These plastics have actually, people are using them on other stuff, but that is another way to walk the dog. Pitch it out there and jig it back, and it's got a single hook. So if you're in Devil's Lake fishing brush, you can kind of walk it through there. If you're fishing rocks, you can make it through there. And for fishing the Lake of the Woods and all this stuff, it's a way of fishing in snaggy areas, and there's only one hook that you have to worry about. Don't tip it with bait because you're ripping it, and it's soft plastic. So if they miss it, they grab that tail and it snaps back. They'll come back for it again. And the second time they hit it, they mean business. We actually shot a Midwest Outdoors last year, and I kind of beat my host 20-1 and got him to switch to this, and then he caught up really fast. So the rip and jig, some cool things to think outside the bucket. Minnows are getting tough, and they're going to be getting tougher. And so, you know, bobbers do still work. If you're on a spot and you just want to throw a bait out and soak it, it's still hard to beat. Big minnows work better on a small or a decent sized hook. Here's a river hook. I'll hook a red tail or a sucker minnow on here and throw that into a weed bed and drag it through with a bullet sinker. The nice thing about bobber fishing that still is hard to beat is you can only jig such a large minnow without having hook effectiveness. And so I've jigged with 4 to 6 inch minnows and sometimes tried bigger ones, but you get a lot of short strikes and miss them. It's better to rig them, but bobber fishing with big minnows works really well. I'll heavy up the fluorocarbon leader to a 10-pound test, and then I'll use a heavier 10 or 12-pound mono as my line. Or you could use braid. Braid works exceptional in these situations. So there are times for bobbers, but the real thing is pitching. And as the lakes get clearer and clearer, we want to throw out a line and drag it, and all that's getting you is debris off the bottom. So if you love jigging, you're set. You could jig year round, but there are times when other things like drop shots for walleyes work really well. And so there's something there I'd like to see you try. But when you do, match it to the right St. Croix rod. And you can't go wrong with any of them. As you see, I've shown you Legend Elite to Legend X rods. They're so much lighter. And I have people get in my boat all the time. And they insist on bringing the rod. And then when they pick up the ones I have for them, they're hooked. Literally. And I've had lots of clients that say, I'm going to load up, and they end up buying 10 of them because their rods were so much heavier and they didn't have the feel of the touch. They could tell when their minnow's gone immediately or a leech is missing. If you can't tell your leech is missing or your minnow's gone from a distance, you need to try St. Croix rods. That's all for now. Thanks for coming in.